Hello and welcome to Inside Boxing's Throwdown. My name is Aurelio Martinez, familiar face on the show, and of course now another familiar face on the show is boxing aficionado Eric Duran. Welcome to the show, Eric Duran.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Okay. In this show, we're going to talk a little bit about Eric. We're going to talk a little bit about the past fight we had with Paulie Malignaggi and Adrien Broner. I mean, a lot of comments, both pro and con. People were talking about they thought Paulie won. A lot of people say he didn't win. And basically, we had a contrast of styles. You know, we knew what Paulie brings to the table, and we kind of knew what Broner's style was. So let's just start by giving me your take. You take Paulie that goes in, throws punches at 3-1 over Adrien Broner. Okay, so of course, he's not inflicted any damage, but that's Paulie. Paulie doesn't have a big knockout ratio. That's not his style. He tends to score, and he kind of did that. Where Broner was Broner, a very defensive fighter, and picked his shots. Okay, so as a judge, it kind of makes it tough. You know, what do? Do they score points? Because obviously, if you score a point, you should be given a point. I mean. How much more difference does it make an effective punch? Okay, give us your take on that fight.
Well, just to go back to a little bit, you said, how does a judge score a fight like this? In a contrast of different styles that they had, it became a quality over quantity. In this fight, I chose Broner to win. Wholeheartedly, I believe he won the fight, hands down. I actually agree with the 117-111 scorecard. Yes, Paulie Malignaggi threw 300 more punches than Broner. But if you actually go and look at the official last count of the punches thrown and punches landed, Broner landed 30 more punches. So, for a fighter who throws 300 more punches but still gets outlanded, and the quality of those punches, when you're throwing 6 or 7 punches at a time that are hitting the elbows, hitting the shoulders, but yet constantly your head's getting snapped back, constantly you're getting caught where either you have to maneuver your way out of a corner or hold on to escape that barrage, tells me you lost the fight. When one guy gets outthrown by 300 punches but doesn't have a scratch on their face, and you're at the end of the fight, your nose is smashed in, your eyes are puffy, you lost the fight.
Well, I agree that there was a contrast in styles. Okay, I simply think that if Paulie threw 350 or 300 punches more than some of them punches got in. I mean, obviously, Broner has a good defense, and no one ever questioned that. I mean, he tends to block punches. This fight was a lot easier for Broner in a means to where he can stay with this game plan because, Eric, as well as I do, in order to gain respect in this game, you have to actually hurt someone. You have to make them feel them. And of course, Paulie wasn't doing that, so Broner was taking the punches. He says, I'll just work defensively and pick my shots. But still, a point is a point. I mean, you take judges where they, some of them favor ring generalship and effective punching, okay? Where others tend to just say, okay, well, I've got to be generalized and I've got to be able to score punches, whether they're tippy taps or small jabs or, and then not to mention Paulie was moving pretty good. Obviously, being that busy, you get tired, and obviously Broner took advantage of that toward the end, second half of the fight, where Paulie just, he had to stop being mobile on his feet.
And that brings me back to my point. Paulie Malignaggi is a great conditioned fighter.
He is.
He tired in that fight, and it wasn't because he was throwing a lot of punches. It's because when Adrien Broner landed, Adrien Broner did damage. So it goes back to the quality and the quantity. Yes, Malignaggi threw a lot of punches, but Broner's punches did the damage. And from round 6 through 12, Paulie continuously slowed down.
Sure he did. Yep.
His output was not there, and Broner went on the attack. And when Broner went on the attack, Paulie didn't have an answer for it.
So let me ask you something, because obviously I'm not a judge, and it kind of irks me a little bit when we listen to commentators that are supposedly supposed to be commentating the fight, and they're supposed to be reporting on the action. But you also see now in the past so many years, commentators now have become judges. Okay, they become judges, and they're number one. They're not qualified to judge a fight. Number one, they're not qualified. That's not what they do. They're not paid to judge the fight. They're paid to commentate on the fight. Okay, they're paid to commentate on the action in the ring. And I think we've lost that. We lost that from commentators, and it kind of sets a tone, and it kind of sets the flavor for the public out there. I had a lot of comments on our Inside Boxing where people were talking about the fight, and they were talking about, well, yeah, even Steve Farhood said this. Well, Steve Farhood is not qualified to score a fight.
Well, here's the problem though. They aren't paid to score the fight, and they are paid just commentary. However, they have the platform to be able to put on a judge's hat at the moment. I agree with you. I watch every boxing show that I get a chance to, especially the main ones. And one of my biggest gripes is I'm sitting here listening to some of these commentators, and I'm telling myself, what? First of all, what fight are they watching?
Exactly.
And what is going through their mind when they release some of these statements? Because there's this. They're not qualified, like you said, to do so, but they have the platform. Just like we have the platform here to say our opinions.
Yes.
But fortunately, for myself, I've spent the last 10 years in and out of gyms. I can't even put a number of years of how many years you spend in the gyms. Yeah. Doesn't necessarily make us more qualified, but you're right. When the average person is watching a fight, they take those comments and run with them.
There's an influence there.
Exactly.
And I mean, we all have our opinions. We all pretty much see a fight, we watch a fight, and we make our own decisions on who we felt won the fight. You know, not based on we're judges, because now what the broadcasting has done, HBO, Showtime, ESPN, Television, all these fights, is they've turned everyone instead of being boxing fans, they turned us all into judges.
Exactly.
Well, Paulie did this. He threw all these fights. He should have scored. No, he did the effect. Well, to people out there, even Steve Farhood and all the commentators out there, what determines an effective punch? And if a guy hits you with 5 pity-pat punches, does one effective punch, does that negate 3 punches? 5 punches? 6 punches? We don't know, because you're not a judge. I mean,
exactly.
We don't know.
And even in some of the judges, what makes them qualified? You know what I mean?
Well, I agree.
That's the other point.
Judging is a problem.
Judging is a problem in boxing. I believe we should go to the 5-judge format to see how that works. I also believe you need to have a certain knowledge of the sport. One of the best commentators that I respect is Max Kellerman.
Yes.
Why? Is because Max, at a young age, can rattle off history. You know what I mean? And some people will say, oh, you know what, that's just going back, reading your facts, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? He's taking the time to not only learn what's going on today, but learn where it came from, how it's transgended. And I can respect his opinion more than I can respect a Jim Lampley's, a Steve Farhood's.
I agree. 100%. And sometimes, people get irritated because he brings back the old history fighters and stuff. But you know what? He makes them comparisons, which is good for commentating. Okay, I'd rather see a comparison to a John L. Sullivan or Rocky Marciano or Cassius Clay, who now is Muhammad Ali. I'd rather see them comparisons in the commentating rather than to say, well, that judge don't know what he's doing. That referee is crazy. That referee should be in there doing his job. Don't worry about what the referee's doing. You're not paid to worry about that. Don't worry about what the judges are scoring. You're not paid to do that. Exactly. The score that you just mentioned, the 117, whatever it was.
111.
117. Okay. That judge can rightfully justify his score.
He can.
He can justify his score because judging is so... It's got such a wide spectrum.
And to speak on judging, if you fans out there, try to catch ESPN Friday Night Fights. what they've done on ESPN Friday Night Fights is they set up 3 cameras from each judge's angle.
Okay.
And what you get during these angles is sometimes one judge has the fighter's back to him and cannot see the action. Or one time a judge has an action where a punch was landed, but because of his angle, because of the way the referee is set up, the way the fighters are positioned, they don't see the impact of that punch.
Makes sense.
Judging is definitely a tremendous job that they do. They don't always get it right, but you or I could be wrong at times too.
And that's what I mean. Maybe they didn't get it right in the public eye, but it doesn't mean they didn't get it right from their angle.
Exactly.
Okay. But in saying that, I still agree that there has to be a means of training, so that all the judges are on the same level, so that they're all been issued the same certificate of merit.
Yes. So
they all have the same things, because I always hear this ring generalship. Okay. Do you mean to tell me that if you get a fighter in there and he throws no punches, but he looks good and he's moving and he's doing the shuffle and he's doing that, you're going to score a point for him?
Exactly.
That's ring generalship.
Ring generalship.
He's not getting hit. So how much does ring generalship fare in boxing? I mean, we all have our opinions. To me, you can throw that out the window, because boxing is combat. It's hitting. It's making contact. So that should be the focus of the scoring. So ring generalship, they shouldn't even talk about that anymore. Let's talk about who actually wins the fight, who makes the contact. Now we get into the question of effective punches.
Exactly.
I'm going to sit here and tell you, I picked Paulie Malignaggi to win the fight.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Okay, I just knew he would be busy, and I knew he'd throw a lot of punches, and he did. He followed his game plan, and he executed his game plan the way he should have. His punches, if you look at it from a boxing fan's view, they didn't look as nice and as sweet as Broner's fight.
They did.
But there was multiple compared to. So what do you do? I mean, obviously, as a fan's point, I have to say you have to say Broner won the fight as a fan's view, because he actually did the most damage, and that's what boxing's all about. Who does the most damage?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
But if you were to go and read a lot of the websites and a lot of the blogs, it's 50-50 out there on who the fans actually thought won the fight.
It is.
Which is good for the sport, because people are talking about it, people are engaged in it, and like we said, 1.3 million people turned in to watch that fight.
Yeah, interesting that 1.3 pay-per-view viewers tuned in to see that fight. And obviously, if you look on InsideBoxing or Showtime, you'll see the press release that came out showing them numbers. And they actually show the 5 last recent, you might say, fights that have top 5, okay? And incidentally, Mayweather-Guerrero's not on that list.
You know, I think...
But it just comes to show why they never came out with the actual numbers to that.
It could be true, but what people have to realize here is you had 2 flamboyant, ultra lifestyles on a big stage. A lot of people were into all the antics of Paulie and Broner.
Yeah.
But the numbers don't lie.
The numbers don't lie.
People turned in to see the press conferences. People hit YouTube, World Star Hip Hop to see these confrontations at weigh-ins, and in the end, people turned in to see the fight.
And you know what? And they got their money's worth. Okay?
Exactly.
Like I said, just for the record, I saw the fight as a draw. Okay, because I don't think that Paulie should be punished because he doesn't hit hard, or because he doesn't have the pretty crisp punching that Adrien Broner has. I think that his multitude of punches kept him in the fight throughout the fight. So with me, I have no quarrels in saying that's a fight. Not to take anything from Adrien Broner, because Adrien Broner looks good. He looks good. He throws a mean punch. And to be honest with you, I think every boxing fan just loves that. I know, I like that. Yeah, I like that.
And what people have to realize is the kid's 23 years old.
Yeah.
He's a 3-time world champion, and he jumped 2 weight classes. Unfortunately, he has this lifestyle If you get a chance, YouTube AB About Billions. It's a YouTube episode show that he does. The fans expected more because of the lifestyle he lives, but that they don't realize that it was impressive and whatever he puts out there for people to purchase. What he did in the ring was impressive. What he's done at 23 is impressive. Like I said in our last broadcast, I think this Showtime deal. Obviously, Canelo's already a huge star. Mayweather's a huge star. Broner is going to be that next huge star. This is where I believe HBO lost out on, was Adrien Broner. The 1.3 million people who tuned in to watch him.
Oh, absolutely.
At 23, three-time world champion, 2 weight classes. He's probably going to drop down to 140 and make it 4 world titles and 4 weight classes.
HBO has their work cut out. But, going back to the fight, I agree. I watched the fight and I just said that I had picked Paulie, okay, but I like Broner in the ring. Just like everyone else, I try when I watch a fight, I try not to let his lifestyle out of boxing affect what I'm watching in the ring. And if you do that, you see a very, very talented fighter in the ring in Adrien Broner, okay? What happens, you see the outside. You see the YouTube where he's sitting there throwing $20 bills, flushing them down the toilet, okay? Back a few years where he was arrested for snatching a purse. Okay, so his lifestyle outside the ring is not so good.
It's not so good. Okay? But you know what? It sells. That's
but he needs to be careful because when you break the law, when you're snatching purses,
okay, yeah, there's a difference.
When you're doing that,
there's a difference between breaking the law.
Then what happens? You come into like Aaron Hernandez, probably the best football player New England had, prospect to come for years and years to come, but yet ego outside the ring, wanted to be tough, gangster. Now he's in jail being accused of murder.
So, you're absolutely right.
So you gotta be careful.
You do have to be careful, but unfortunately, although boxing is a sport, it's an entertainment and it's a business. So those 1.3 million people that turned in,
yes.
500,000 of those people probably turned in to want to see him lose.
Sure.
And so next time he fights on Showtime, it might be 1.8 million, and 1 million of those people want to see him lose. But you know what? Those million people tuned in. 2 years from now, he may be a pay-per-view star where 1.4 million people are paying $70, and half of them want to see him lose. And even though he wins, they tune in again to see him fight.
And I agree. I'll watch his fights. I like the way he fights. I'm just saying it's a thin line, and he needs to be careful because he can very easily, if he doesn't change, and I know he's young, 23, but if you don't change your lifestyle outside and you start having these brushes with the law, and not only with the law, you can end up in jail or you can end up dead. I mean, look at Tupac. Tupac is probably one of the best rappers out there of all times. I mean, you can't take it from him, okay? But because of his lifestyle and the gangster lifestyle,
it caught up with him.
It caught up with him.
And you know what? And Adrien Broner definitely, the lifestyle he lives, like you said, it doesn't matter if the law catches up with him. Someone out there who doesn't care about what he does in the ring, doesn't care about the lifestyle he lives, can catch up with him as well. And that's something he's going to have to learn within the next couple of years. And
I'm hopeful because, like you say, he is 23, he's young, and he's going to realize that his talent is going to take him a long way in boxing. It's going to just take him a long way. He just has the talent and skills to be a superstar for years and years to come. So I'm kind of glad. Let's move on to after the fight. Okay, a lot of criticism with his interview after the fight, where he on TV during the post-fight interview, he basically made mention to where he took Paulie's belts and his
girlfriend. Yes.
Tell me, classless.
Once again, it's a maturity thing. You know what? Paulie is Adrien is very immature. Anyone who sees him will note that. But he's 23. Unfortunately, Paulie is in his 30s, and he revealed some of the same antics that Adrien did throughout this press tour, throughout the build-up to this fight. Floyd Mayweather was the same way. Very cocky, very forward.
Yeah.
It took him years to get over that, to be this respectable, humble fighter after a fight. Like we said, you know what? Judge Broner for what he is now, but don't overlook the fact that talent and skills are there. However, if he's 28, 29, and he's still living this lifestyle, okay, judge him then. Let him grow. Let's see how time takes its course. Because like they say, time reveals the true aspects of who people are.
It does. I myself,
But you know what? I love it though.
But that's what
because it's entertainment.
I was trying to get to a point where you can say, okay, people were upset. They said it was classless, it was all that, but that was mainly your Paulie Malignaggi fans that were a little upset with the decision.
Exactly.
And the classless, and then you get some people out there that say, maybe he shouldn't have said it. But the truth and the fact of the matter is this was a hot topic before the fight. So all he did was put an end to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all he did was put an end to it. Classless, you can call it classless, but he did put a final end to it. I mean, and I think that whole temperature rising between both fighters and the pre-fight and during the fight, it had to do with Jessica, with the girl.
But you can't blame Adrien and Paulie, because if you YouTube Jessica, there's actually an interview with her that pertains to this, and that's the media. That's not Adrien. That's not Paulie.
Yeah.
That's the media who took the story, ran with it, and built upon it. So it goes hand in hand. Don't just blame Paulie. Don't just blame Adrien. Blame us as well, because we're talking about it right now.
But let me tell you something, Eric. Women will do that to you.
Yes, they will.
Women will do that to you. It's just a fact of life. Women will do that to you.
Especially the Jessicas. I've had a Jessica in my past too.
Yeah.
They do that.
It's
in their nature.
It's just something where it gets under a man's skin. It kind of bugs him, and you're not going to tell me it didn't bug Paulie that his girlfriend was now sleeping around and going out with Adrien Broner.
By the way, it wasn't his girlfriend. It was a weekend thing. It was a fling. It wasn't his girlfriend, but Paulie's an egotistic. So yeah, you're right. It did hurt his ego a little bit, whether it was serious, whether it was a weekend fling.
Well, sure it does.
It still hurts.
It sure does. And I'm gonna tell you what, Adrien Broner's 23 years old. He's had plenty of girlfriends, and in my opinion, he's gonna have plenty of more girlfriends before he's ready to settle down and be with one girl. He's gonna be that one where he's going to work his boxing, and he's the superstar.
He's an entertainer.
Yeah,
and in today's sport of boxing, you need to be an entertainer to not only sell but to make money.
I want to ask you a question before we leave this topic of Broner. I was a little concerned, and of course, I know Paulie. I've met him, know him. And I like Paulie. I think he's very good. And then I tell you what.
When I like Paulie, yes, I'm an Adrien Broner fan, but I love Paulie Malignaggi. If anyone knows me, we're kind of the same person. We have the same flamboyant hairstyles, the way we dress, our personas. But I'm just an Adrien Broner fan. But I have no disrespect towards Paulie.
No, I like Paulie. I liked him in his entire career. I think he's one that he puts himself up front. He's an excellent commentator. He made the comment after the fight where he doesn't have to fight anymore. He says he's financially he's well off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he works with Showtime on the commentating team. He doesn't ever have to fight again, and he would be okay financially and in his body, his lifestyle or whatever you want to call it. But I think that was pretty good for him to say that. Because I don't know if we're going to see Paulie fight again, and I don't know if we should, simply because number one, his age. He's always going to take brutal shots because he doesn't deliver the power to gain the respect and keep people off of him. So he's always going to be susceptible to that power shot.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you caught it, but in the championship rounds, and I don't remember what round it was maybe the 10th round or something in the corner. I don't know if you caught it, but he actually told his corner man, "My head hurts."
Mm-hmm.
And he said that. You can see he was being attended to, given the water and given the directions, and you can hear it. he says, my head hurts.
Yeah.
And that presents concern.
It does.
Presents concern.
Well, Paulie's had over close to 40 professional fights. He's probably had a couple hundred amateur fights. In a lot of these fights, the Miguel Cotto fights, the Ricky Hatton fights, the Amir Khan fights, the Juan Diaz fights,
Yes.
he took a lot of punishment. It's great when a fighter comes out and says, you know what, I don't have to do this no more.
Yeah.
Financially, I'm set. I have a good job at Showtime. Get out early. Before he's one of these boxers
Or can't.
who, exactly, a Maldrick Taylor,
Where he can't.
for instance.
Can't talk, can't do anything.
Doesn't remember what he's done, has no money to show for it. If he's financially set and can get along with just doing Showtime, that's great for him because you know what? He just lost. So you know what it's going to take? It's going to take 3 more years, 3 to 4 more fights before he can ever get back into a high-class fight like he just had with Broner. That takes time, not only mentally, but physically as well.
And it doesn't change the fact that he's still going to be there for the power shots.
Exactly.
It's in his nature. It's in his style. Okay.
He's not going to grow power overnight.
Well, he's at the end of his career.
Exactly.
So I like Paulie. I think he gave boxing fans a very, very decade of boxing. It was nice to see Paulie out there.
And no one can question his skills, his determination, his charisma. And like you said, he's a fabulous commentator. Most of the time when I tune into Showtime fights now, it's to hear Paulie, it's to see what he's wearing, it's to see what his hairstyle looks like.
Yeah, it is.
He's great. He's great for boxing people, and he's great for fans. So if he can retire and just do the commentary, I wish him the best.
Paulie, do me a favor. When you're on Showtime and you're commentating the fight, and whoever's next to you commentating, the minute they come to you and they tell you, well, I have so-and-so ahead, I judge this fight, do me a favor. Turn around and tell them, when they ask you how you score in the fight, turn around and tell them, I don't know, I'm not a judge, I'm not paid, but I can tell you I just saw a good right hand punch, I saw a good hook, okay? Keep commentating, and let them other bozos continue to try to be judges and chastise the judges and the referees and everything else, and just keep doing the good job you're doing. That's what I like. So, and with that, we're going to come back here in a little bit, and we're going to continue the show segment. We're going to talk about upcoming fights, a Triple G, of course, on this weekend, some other fights coming up, and we'll be right back.